All right, so I'll just dig in with a little bit about me. I think I mentioned to most of you here, I actually went to Irvine for 2 years. I absolutely loved the school, loved the campus, loved my time here at Irvine, and that's actually why I'm back. When I got asked to come back to Irvine and talk to the entrepreneur group, I said absolutely. So I spent 2 years here at Irvine as a triple major in bio-e, chemi, and also econ. Absolutely loved my time. Wound up transferring out into Berkeley, though. I spent 2 years after Irvine at Berkeley, where I got to basically finish up my chemi degree. I was also pre-med. I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do. So just imagine this. I was essentially triple major. I was a chemi. And one of the reasons why I went into chemi was because I heard it was the major for all majors. It gave you the most flexibility to do kind of anything that you want. I was a bio-e because I was like, I really want to go into, I was really interested in medicine, actually. So I was actually pre-med at the same time. And then I was also econ because I was really interested in starting my own company. So I basically got a job after college working as a chemi at a manufacturing plant. Every single day, I was a process engineer. I was thinking about how do we take our manufacturing process and make it go better, smoother, faster, run more productively. And then on the nights and weekends, I told you I loved building stuff. So I wound up teaching myself how to code. At the same time, I was interested in medicine, so I was applying to med school. So again, I just had no clue what I wanted to do. I was working at this manufacturing plant, but even though I had so many different passions, there's one thing that stood out to me. I think I was talking, oh my gosh, who was I talking to? One of you guys about building a startup, seeing problems firsthand. When I was working at this manufacturing plant, I was like, oh my gosh, the software that we were using was horrible. So working in a manufacturing plant, if you guys have ever stepped foot in one of those, big piece of equipment, you have technicians, operators, engineers who are always out in the production floor. They're never sitting in front of a desk. But then all the software that we were using was desktop-based. So they would do all of their work out in the field, jot everything down on a piece of paper and pencil, come back to the office, and then we said, hey, this is this piece of shit software that we're going to give you to use. It was horrible. I was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. What's going on? So, working in this manufacturing plant, technicians weren't using software that was designed for them. And the whole premise behind Upkeep was this idea that technicians out in the field deserve something better. I mentioned I went to Berkeley. It's in the heart of innovation, technology, software. It's up in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, this and that. And I was like, I just remember, just fresh out of college going, wasn't AI supposed to take over the world? Like, isn't innovation like everywhere here? But then you step foot into a manufacturing plant and you're like, holy moly, we're like 50 years behind. I remember seeing all these headlines saying, AI is supposed to take over the factory floor and, 30 million people are going to lose their jobs because of AI and, it's just going to be terrible, right? AI is just going to take over the world. I see all these headlines, but then I go into a manufacturing plant and I'm like, where the hell is all of this like technology and innovation? I'm reading headlines, but I'm seeing something completely different. And so that was kind of like the inspiration behind Upkeep. It was actually seeing this problem firsthand and saying, I think I could build something better. And ultimately, I believe that technology should make the days, lives, and jobs easier for technicians, not make it more difficult. So that was like the inspiration behind Upkeep. That was the starting of my journey almost 10 years ago, which is absolutely nuts. So 10 years ago, I wound up quitting my job as a chemie. I moved down to LA because my wife is way smarter than I am, got into med school at UCLA. And I wound up teaching myself how to code. I got a job as an iOS developer. I wound up teaching myself software development because I was like, I see this big problem working in a manufacturing plant, and no one else is solving it, so I think I'm going to do it. I went to a bunch of these hackathons, actually, so that's actually how I learned how to code. I knew nothing about how to code or what to do, so I went to probably about 20 to 30 hackathons. Have you guys been to a hackathon? No? Have you heard of it? No? Maybe, sort of? So it's basically, they stick you in our hackathons that I did was roughly about 48 to 72 hours. We basically have 72 hours, 3 days, to come up with a problem, build a solution, and go pitch it to essentially investors. And the idea was like, go solve a problem, a real problem in the world, and do it in 72 hours, 3 days. So I went to a bunch of these hackathons where I built a bunch of products and apps and software. And I wound up learning how to code in a very accelerated way, because if you go to these hackathons, there's 99 people with great ideas and very few people that can actually build. So I basically raised my hand and said, I'm gonna build. I'm gonna learn how to build. I'm gonna raise my hand and be one of those builders, even though I have no clue what I'm doing. I went to about 30 of these, and that's how I learned in a very, very quick manner. And then, I was working as an iOS developer, got a job as an iOS developer. After doing so many of these hackathons, wound up getting hired because I basically, in my interview process, I said, hey, look, don't look at my resume, because I used to work as a chemie. I literally shipped and launched like 10 apps on the App Store. Go check those out. That was my interview process. I got hired as an iOS developer, and then on the nights and weekends, I was basically building Upkeep. This was 10 years ago. The entire inspiration behind Upkeep was, again, solve a problem that I used to have working in a manufacturing plant. This is the very first versions of Upkeep. It was horrible. The first logo of Upkeep was green, and I used Fiverr to create a logo, and this little video is terrible. It was absolutely horrible. And then my first tasks and work orders was wake Shelly up every single morning, and that was, Shelly's my wife, so. I think I mentioned to you all, but in the early days of Upkeep, I started Upkeep basically on the nights and weekends. I was living with my mom in the garage because I wanted to save money on rent. And it wouldn't have been without my family, my mom, her support, that Upkeep exists today. So I feel very, very grateful. That's how Upkeep got started. I basically wound up jumping into Upkeep full time. After 2 years of doing it on the nights and weekends, after one day, my friend said, hey, Ryan, you should start Upkeep and work on it full time. I believe in you. So I just got incredibly lucky. I had the support system. I didn't have to pay rent because I was living with my mom in the garage. And literally right after I quit my job, I wound up applying to this thing called YC. I think everyone knows what it is, Y Combinator. So this was 8 years ago, actually. I applied to YC right after just quitting my full-time job, just jumping into Upkeep full-time. This is an extremely embarrassing video because I basically created this video in about 90 seconds. But it's basically my YC interview video. I'll send it over to you guys if you want afterwards, because I literally cannot hit play without cringing. It hurts me inside. And I'll give you the backstory here, because so here's what happened. I just quit my job. I actually had no clue what YC was, 0 clue. And then my friend was like, oh, hey, I heard you're starting a startup. You should apply to this thing called YC. And I was like, okay, sure, I don't know what this is. And I remember applying for it. I literally did the entire application process in about 30 minutes. People spend hours, days, weeks. Oh, yeah, okay. So I had no clue what YC was. I applied literally end to end in 30 minutes. That's why this video is so horrible. It's so bad. It's so bad. But somehow I got in. Okay, so, oh God, it's playing. Oh shit. Okay. But I'll give you the backstory later about how I got in, but the quick answer there is YC doesn't give a shit what your answers are. All they care about is you as a person and your growth and traction. It's kind of like the TLDR. A little bit about our growth and traction. So I'd been building this thing on the nights and weekends for about 2 years. Day one, launched the app, built this really fucking cool, awesome product. Guess how many people used it? 0. On day 2, guess how many people used it? Still 0, if you're wondering. Day 3, I finally asked my mom, hey, do you mind downloading the app and giving me a 5-star review? 1 person. Day 4, my brother. Day 5, my wife. Day 6, it was a really slow slog. But I did this for 2 years, and every single day just had 1 more person. It wasn't anyone special. It was just like my mom, my brother, my mom, my aunt, and I just shipped this thing on the App Store. But if you do this for 2 years, it's over 700 days in a year, or 700 days over 2 years. Do this over 2 years, and it goes from, one person using it, 2 person, 5, 10, 15, 30, 100, 1,000. When I wound up quitting my job, I actually had roughly about 10,000 people using Upkeep on a daily basis. It was pretty wild. It was like a really cool business. It was 100% free, never thought about starting a business. And then one day my friend was like, hey, dude, turn around. You've come a really long way. In the moment, I was like, it just feels really slow. But it's these moments where you do something for so long, your success kind of compounds, and you don't realize how far you've gone until someone slaps you and goes, turn around and see how far you've come. That was one of those moments for me. My friend said, hey, Ryan, there's 10,000 people using your completely free product. It's pretty good. Top of that, I was in my support channel. So we use this product called Intercom, and have people just write me messages about why our app sucks and why it needs to be better, and why it's so buggy. I'm like, come on, dude, it's one person over here. You're not even paying for it. Cut me some slack. I had an email come in one day from a guy named Brad Riddy, Universal Studios Orlando. It was like, hey, Ryan, I love your product. It's totally free. We don't want you to go out of business. We just got a quote from one of your competitors who literally gave us a quote for $500,000. We want to pay you for your product, and we want to just make sure you don't go out of business. It's like, fuck yeah. Mom, I told you I'm going to make it. It was like, we're going to pay you $10 a user per month. I was like, $350 for 35 users, $350 a month? Hell yeah, I'm crushing it. Universal Studios was one of our very first customers before we even had a paid product. I kind of mentioned, I got into YC, I had no clue what I was doing. My application sucked. This is why I got in. It wasn't because I had all the right answers to the application. It wasn't because my video looked like it was professionally done. It's because I could point back and say, we have 10,000 people using our free product, and Universal Studios Orlando is paying us when we don't even have a paid option. I wound up getting into Y Combinator from this terrible, shitty ass video, but based off of our traction and the growth that we had. This is really cool. Wound up raising a $3 million seed round. This is me over 7 years ago on the YC stage, basically presenting in front of about 1,000 investors. Raised $3 million in our seed round and got extremely lucky. Oh God, it's playing. I can't hear myself speak. I'll send it over to you guys later. After YC, I wound up hiring my very first employees. And I had some incredible mentors during YC, Jeff Ralston, Tim Brady. I had, oh my gosh, Sam Altman was in my group too. He was the president of YC, so I got to learn from some incredible people. Oops. One thing that they said to me was, Ryan, as a solo founder, you got to do 2 things. One is you got to hire some people, because you're literally doing literally everything from coding, design, engineering, support, sales, marketing, everything is one person. You got 10,000 people using your product every day. You should probably hire someone. That was the first piece of advice. Second piece of advice, he was like, hey Ryan, you should probably charge for your product. Free forever for everyone is in basically donation-based business is a very difficult business model. Okay, yeah, you're right. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. Wound up getting really lucky. Wound up basically creating this paid product, and wound up just being on this absolute rocket ship. Insane. Went from literally 0 revenue to $1 million over a course of a year-ish. It was nuts. It was gnarly. It was crazy. And during this period, basically, we started getting, people started seeing our growth, our traction. I hear this in one of my startup nuggets of advice, but traction and growth will create incredible opportunities for you and your startup. Wound up getting just kind of like lobbed all these term sheets, people wanting to throw money at our business. And it was a really awesome opportunity for me. This was my first company, my first startup. I was like, is this how startups work? Sometimes not. We wound up raising a $10 million Series A from a group called Emergence after Y Combinator. They actually followed us for a pretty long time and said, we love the product that you're building, love the industry that you're in, see incredible opportunities for you to continue growing. So I wound up raising a $10 million Series A and hired more people. Basically moved down to LA, started up an office, and brought more people onto this mission, and it's been an incredible journey. This is kind of like our first little team here. This is the car that I drive around in. I wound up wrapping my entire car there. But the funnier part actually is that I actually wrap my wife's car too in Upkeep, so she drives around in an Upkeep Tesla. Wound up getting an office, moved into a co-working space, and this was our very first office. So this was, my gosh, this was 7 years ago. This was around 2018 actually, so maybe 6 years ago. Did some really cool things. Over the past 6, 7 years, 8 years, wrote a book, wrote three books, wrapped my cars, featured on the NASDAQ tower, got nominated for Forbes 30 Under 30, though I'm over 30 now. Got put up in the Wall Street Journal and all this other cool stuff. But at the end of the day, none of that really matters. The only thing that matters is the impact that you're having for your customers. Wound up just continue growing the business, and again, growth generates awesome opportunities. Raised another $36 million in our Series B, and this was about 4.5 years ago. So over time, we've actually raised about $50 million in venture. But it came from having a great product and growing and growth. You're going to hear me say growth, growth, growth. That is the root of all problems. Wound up moving offices again. This is kind of like a funny little story. We raised our Series B in 2019, moved into a gigantic office that could fit roughly about 200 people because we were like, growth. You're probably seeing the timing here, right? February of 2020. Our real estate guy was like, hey, Ryan, you're thinking about growing, right? I'm like, fuck yeah, we are. We're going to grow a lot. And he's like, if you believe in your business, Ryan, you should take more office space. I was like, you're right. So we ended up getting this gigantic office, and then literally the next month, it was pandemic time. So kind of funny, but it all works out. Wound up going fully remote. Yeah, thanks. And now today, we have grown into that, that growth number. Our team is about 160 people. But, obviously because of COVID being remote, everyone is all distributed all across the country, actually. So it's really, really cool. My path, my journey towards Upkeep has been pretty nuts, pretty gnarly. We have 3,000 customers, 160 Upkeepers from UCLA and Shell and Subway, Unilever, some big, big brands that use Upkeep. It's been this phenomenal journey for me that I feel incredibly, fortunate to be part of. And really, every single day, still running the business, every single day is just about expanding our mission, solving bigger problems for bigger customers, and revolutionizing the entire industry. Over time, been named the #1 leader in the space, really cool. And then on top of that, we've made a big impact to our customers. What I said to you guys here is raised a lot of money, but none of that matters. The only thing that really matters is the impact that you're having to your customers. I hear a lot of really good social impact companies here and startups here. That's the thing that matters. That's the only thing that matters. How much money you raise, how successful, how many, Forbes or Wall Street Journal articles you've been in doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is the impact that you've made on people's lives, jobs, work, that's the only thing that matters. And at the end of the day, like, you could have all these accolades, but the thing that brings me the most joy is, again, the impact that we have to our customers. The opportunities that I have when I get to hear from one of our customers that got promoted or go home early or, not get woken up in the middle of the night because they're using Upkeep, and, just hearing these stories of how it changes their lives. So over time, we've just continued to dream a bigger dream and impact our customers in bigger and bigger ways. Over the last 7 years, Upkeep, we've just, we've done a lot. We've accomplished a lot, but I would also say that we've just gotten started. All right, I'm going to pause here because this is a lot about my journey at Upkeep, and then I'll get into my 10 nuggets of startup advice. Go first.
I think that you keep mentioning how you always just focus on the growth and the impact, and I think it really just, you can kind of just tell in every single picture, no matter where you were.
Yeah.
You just look so happy.
Yeah.
You just look like the happiest person ever, and I just love that because I just think that's like the best attitude you can have. Like,
yeah.
Don't just get too greedy. You just look humble the whole way.
Yeah. I feel like I live my life, and in the way that I lead my company is do the things that you love with people that you love. One of our core values even at Upkeep is this idea of people over profit. It's this idea that at the end of the day, like, the company, all of us, we're just a group of people, a collection of people. And if we do the right things, good things will happen back to us. But the moment you start saying profit is the number one goal, I feel like everything just divulges into badness. So I've always kept that as a core principle. And then on top of that, just, have fun with the people that you absolutely love.
How do you pick your team? Because that's something me and, I've been thinking about a lot. Because we haven't only hired one guy, but we're all working for no money.
Yeah.
I love it, but
I'll give you a quick answer there. Basically, it was a friend of a friend, and he did it because of the mission. In the early days, we didn't have any money. This was just like us messing around and just building cool shit. And we liked each other as human beings, and we wanted to build cool shit that people used. So my first few employees, first group of people was, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. And it was just a small group of us just saying, hey, we want to build cool shit that people love. In the early days, there's no ego. No one knows what we're doing. There's no you're an expert in this. It was just, literally a group of 3 of us just every single day pounding away with one mission to build cool shit for customers.
So what does your software do?
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I guess I skipped around that, huh? We build software for maintenance teams. So imagine, you're working in a manufacturing facility. A piece of equipment breaks down. You pull out your phone, snap a picture, create a work order. That'll trigger a notification to go to the facility manager who dispatches a technician to go out and fix it. So kind of like this workflow collaboration tool. So I don't know if you guys use Jira or Slack or Trello or Monday.com, one of those. Imagine that product purpose-built for maintenance teams in a manufacturing facility.
What's your revenue model is that you charge them?
Yeah, so we charge on a per user, per seat, per month basis. So it's essentially a SaaS subscription user-based model.
So what's your revenue?
Ooh, good question. Yeah. Let's say we're between 20 and 30 million bucks in revenue. Yeah. So
what's your next plan?
Next plan, keep growing.
Going to do IPO?
Yeah. I mean, that's the plan. That really is the plan. We are continuing to grow, and at the end of the day, what I've said many times is, the outcome of a big IPO or an acquisition or a big event isn't really what I look for. I just want to keep building cool shit that customers love. Exactly, and do it with people that I absolutely love. So I'm going to keep growing.
Why isn't somebody which has got a similar kind of software in another direction
Sorry, what was that?
I have somebody, that I'm mentoring,
Uh-huh.
and I thought, am I correct to think that you first got customers or users of your software before you went to Y Combinator?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of my, yeah.
You didn't have a team, you were just yourself.
Yeah.
That's a very good advice, so she can do that, and get a lot of subscribers before she does.
I feel like that's a misconception that a lot of people have. So this is my next nuggets of advice, but my last one is actually, we're all capable of much more than we think. So I'll kind of like give you a little bit of backstory. Like, I was not a programmer. I had no clue how to code. I wouldn't call myself a designer by any means. I'm actually terrible at anything design. Never sold something in my entire life. Didn't know what marketing even meant. Knew nothing. I was a new grad out of college. Like, literally, this is how brand new I was. We're all capable of much more than we think. When people say, oh, don't know how to code, I need to find someone. Oh, I don't know how to sell stuff, like pick up the fucking phone. Yeah, exactly. Go learn. We're all capable of much more than we think. So I feel like my general advice for people is like, you can do it. Believe in yourself.
So when you started off, what was your why? Did it change over time?
What was my why? When I first started off, my why was build something that provided value to people around the world. I don't think that's really changed. So kind of give you a little bit more backstory. I love building. I fucking love building. That's why I went into engineering. That's why I didn't go into medicine, actually. I love to build stuff. I started building all these apps. I went to 20, 30 different hackathons because I loved building. And I loved it even more when people used it and gave me feedback about why it sucks. Because it actually meant that it was attempting to solve a problem for them. I wound up building Upkeep on the nights and weekends, shipping it out for free, for absolute free. I didn't think about starting a business. My why was all about just building something that provided value to customers and users all around the world. And it was so cool when I heard Universal Studios say, hey, we're using your app, we really love it, we don't want you to go out of business. It was like the coolest moment for me because it solidified everything that I'm doing. Building something that people are using, getting value out of. And the way they demonstrate that value was, we're going to pay you even though you don't even have a paid option. It was the coolest moment. I still don't think that's really changed.
But for each industry, do you have to do a particular one? Say somebody has got a factory.
A little bit.
Electrical, the other one has got something which is mechanical.
Kind of, sort of. They're little like industry niches, but at the end of the day, maintenance is all kind of done in the same-ish way, right? Whether you're building your facility, you're repairing an HVAC in a large campus like Irvine, or you're a manufacturing facility and you're repairing a boiler or steam trap or chiller. Similar workflow, but minor differences, yeah. I know you had a question too.
So you applied for policy, and I did that, and I told you that it would take 20 hours because it asks for everything, like what's your revenue stream, what is your business model, and everything. But you said that you just like provide it for free, and it seems like you didn't have like that much like concrete business model there.
No.
So
What was my YC app?
yeah, how do you?
Okay, I'll tell you. It's a really good question because I know what the YC app is, and I think they actually added a few more questions into the YC app. But I'll give you the only reason why I got in. Is because of, no, not passion actually. You can get in. You can have a lot of passion still and not get in. The only reason why we got in was because of traction and growth. Basically said, okay, like what's your cap table? What's your business model? How much money are you making? Like how do you know this is a problem? Literally, my answer to everything was like, it was so basic, other than we have 10,000 people using Upkeep every single day. We have At that point, like 3 people paying us when we don't even have when we have a paid product. Here's a list of who. It was Universal Studios Orlando. It was Stericycle, and I forgot who the third customer was actually, but like basically 2 out of the 3 companies were massive public companies. That's why we got in. It wasn't because of what I thought the business model was going to be. It was literally just because I was able to say, we have 10,000 people using our product every single day. Here's a link to the App Store. Please use it. Check it out. You can download it, sign up for free. And the group partners actually did. They're like, holy shit, one person did this, is supporting 10,000 people, has 2 public companies as a customer, and quit his job like 3 weeks ago? Like, that's pretty gnarly. Huh? I mean, again, like it's kind of crazy to say, but we're all capable of way more than we think. And it wasn't an overnight success. So I'm not going to say that this is an overnight success. Didn't go from 0 to like 1 million over a course of 3 weeks. It was a 2-year process. It was a 2-year process of just grinding every single day. First 2 days, 0 people. Finally, my mom downloaded the app. So reluctant. Then my wife, then my brother.
So how much are you charging per seat?
It's about $1,000 a year per user, but we also have a free product still. So our highest tier, our most common tier is about $1,000 a seat per year.
$1,000 per seat per year.
Yeah.
Whether they have 1 seat or whether they have 10 seats, then you get 10,000.
Yeah.
Or is it different stages?
We have different tiers. There's like the entry price. That one's a little bit cheaper. Then you have like the enterprise version. It's a little bit more expensive. On pricing though, here's what I'll also say to you if you're curious about pricing and how I came up with my pricing model. Don't overcomplicate it. Just look at what the industry does. So many people get so stuck on pricing in the early days of Upkeep, like that's not your biggest problem. Pricing is not going to win you is not going to help you dominate the market unless you like drastically undercut, but that's also a really tough business model. Just stick with market comps, pick the midpoint, and build a 10x better product.
So I know that when you have the free version, it's usually good for like leads. Like how often do people like get the free version that you have and then they get converted to?
Our conversion rate was roughly between like 3 and 5%. So yeah. Yeah.
How many employees do you have now?
160. Yeah.
Is it the one that you said the other day, or is it different?
Yeah.
But do you have one office or do you have?
We have one office, but right now it doesn't get used that much. It's actually in Westwood, UCLA area. Yeah, it's massive. No one goes in.
Mainly they work from.
Yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Asking that. So, all people are just talking about like their success or their journey, but like for now, for me, it's like it's so exhausting that like I need to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So just how it goes with the development, how it goes with like talking to investors, how it goes with like marketing and these kind of things. So no one talk about like the difficulty that they had there, or I'm like curious about that how long these kind of things will take, or how is like a CEO of like such a company life now? Like,
Yeah, okay.
or are you like okay free, or like I don't know, enjoying the company, enjoying the life? Or
So here's what I'll tell you. In the early days of Upkeep, like the fears that I had was around like existential, like is this business going to survive? The problems don't get easier. The problems kind of like stay the same, but the existential risk of the business failing kind of like goes away and you deal with other problems. So it never gets easier is the quick answer, unfortunately. Yeah, very encouraging, right? But at least the growth that we're at, the scale that we're at, like the existential threat of will the business be around tomorrow isn't really a problem. Instead, deal with other shit every day. Then the first point that you brought up was around like, how do you manage being the fundraiser, the marketer, the salesperson, the developer, the researcher all at once? The answer to that question is it's hard. That's it.
No answer.
That's it. It's really tough. It's really tough. But you've got to do it, and I believe in you. Yeah. It's not easy. There's a lot of balls to juggle all in the air. In the beginning, in the early days, it's one person doing this. But what I always say to everyone, do you know what the chances of startup success are to get to a seed round, to a Series A round, to a Series B round? They're like 1%. So if you thought it was easy, then you probably shouldn't have even started. What we are all doing right now, starting a startup, is pretty extraordinary. You're basically saying, I'm going to put myself into this massive pool and be the 1%. Startup success? Again, it's probably even less than 1% depending on which stage you take it at. But it's basically like from seed to Series A, you're roughly about like 25%. From Series A to Series B, from Series A to Series B is another like 25%. So it just keeps getting more difficult. From where you guys are right now, it's literally, I believe, even the chances of getting into YC is less than 1% right now. So if you thought it was easy, you probably shouldn't have started in the first place. You're basically going in saying, I know what the chances are. I know what the percentage chance is. But I'm doing it anyways because I believe that I'm part of the top 1%. It's hard. All right. I'll share 10 nuggets of startup advice, and then I'll shut up and stop talking. I mentioned this earlier, but I see a lot of people, especially right now, where people are like really just interested in AI, and they want to apply AI as a solution to everything. They're like, hey, new cool technology, AI this, that. I'm going to go build an AI fill in the blank, anything. Start with the problem first, not the technology. What's the problem that you're solving? Start with that. Don't start with the technology. So what do I mean by that? Don't go in search of a problem. Go live the problem. What problems do you have in your daily lives today? Go step in the shoes of your parents, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. Go work in a factory. Go work in a restaurant. See what problems they have first. And then maybe, or maybe not, AI will be the solution to that problem. But I see so many startups get started right now with technology in search of a problem. Those startups very, very, very rarely work. Start with the problem first, not the technology. All right, my second piece of advice, talk to your future customers. This is a very common YC piece of advice. They say, talk to your customers, talk to your users. And many people don't recognize what that means. I see so many startups getting built where it's like, I'm going to go heads down for 6 months, and I'm going to build this fucking amazing product. And then in 6 months, we're going to release it to the world, and everyone's going to love it. That never works. Very, very rarely works. Go out, talk to your customers. Go see the problems that they're having. Get feedback from them. Learn from them. Don't go heads down. Don't think you know what their problem is, and then go heads down and say, I'm going to reveal it to you in 6 months. Go talk to your customers. There's a famous Paul Graham saying that he basically says 90% of his office hours when he does it with startups is basically some form, his advice to them is some form of just go talk to your customers. If you're not sure how much to charge, go talk to 10. You'll have a pretty good sense after that. And I just find it so common that people are, I don't know, afraid to talk to their customers. They're afraid to know what they think of their shitty product or shitty solution or, potential solution. Don't be afraid. The third one is validate that people are willing to pay for your product before you build it. I'm not going to say that I actually did this because I didn't. I was just of this mindset of I'm going to build cool stuff. And I actually wasn't really trying to build a business. Instead, I was just focused on building stuff that people liked and loved. But if you're trying to build a business, don't just build really cool stuff. Don't just talk to your customers because they will tell you, oh, I need this, this, and this feature. But when it comes down to it, when you're trying to be like, great, will you pay us for it? 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, no. So not only talk to your customers, but also validate that they're willing to pay for the product that you're building. So what does this look like? This looks like the form of getting money up front, getting them to sign contracts, doing letters of intent if you have to. Validate that people are willing to pay for the product that you build. There's nothing to be ashamed for in that. If you build and solve a problem for someone, hopefully you're delivering some meaningful value to them that can be translated back into dollars. Don't be afraid of that. Too many people are afraid of asking for money. Too many people are afraid of, transparently, building a real business. Don't be afraid. Validate that people are going to pay for the product that you build, that you spend your time, your energy, your effort in building. Comes in the form, again, of letters of intent, commitments up front, money up front. Any of those are better than nothing. Because people, customers, you talk to them, they'll be like, again, yeah, that would be awesome if you go build this like AI, blah, blah, blah. You come back, you say, oh, I built it. Would you be willing to pay for it? They'll be like, no, I never said I'd pay for it, though. I said that would be awesome. All right. The fourth nugget of advice here is make something few people love. I feel like a lot of people take the opposite approach. They try to build something a lot of people feel pretty meh about. Instead of trying to build something for the masses, find something, a niche problem, that a few people absolutely love. That's actually how you get people to pay for something. When you build kind of like a, half-ass Yelp or a half-ass Google or a half-ass, pick your product, that's not going to evoke the kind of love that you're going to get from people that you want to actually pay for your product. It's much better to start narrow. Start something in a very narrow niche. Build something that a few people will actually love, then many people just kind of feel okay about. Because what you do from there is you continue talking to your customers, building for them, and then you ultimately expand your product horizons. You expand your market. All right, so number 4 was make something a few people love at first. Number 5 is move quickly, iterate, and improve. So again, this is another, it goes back, you're probably hearing common themes. Talk to your customers, validate they're willing to pay, make something few people love, build, iterate, ship, improve every single day. Building a startup, I'm sure you've all probably heard the lean startup, MVPs. I subscribe to it. I think that's the way that companies are built. Go talk to customers. There's another very famous YC saying that you should be embarrassed by your first product launch. If you're not embarrassed by your first product launch, you probably waited too long. You should be embarrassed by your first product launch. I will repeat that. It's okay. Everyone has this notion that, no, I'm going to get all these TechCrunch articles and Forbes articles and Wall Street Journal articles. Unless you're a 4-time founder that sold their previous company for $1 billion, no one's going to hear you. No one's going to know your launch. You'll be lucky if a few people do. And those few people that do, go talk to them. Get feedback from them. Hear from them why they thought your product sucks and where you could improve. That's the start of this iterative journey, and that's so incredibly important. What I say to my team even today is the bar for shipping something is it better than where it is today? I really subscribe to that. And for all of you guys that maybe may or may not have shipped your product already, your bar is nothing. Your bar is very low. So you should probably ship early. Because nothing exists, I'm guessing, in the world right now that is the same solution that you guys are building for. And the moment you say, I built a product that provides even the tiniest bit of value to the world, that's the moment you should ship. Number 6, there's no such thing as an overnight success. So if you look at my journey, I quit my job, got into YC, scaled to $1 million in revenue all in the course of a year. Pretty gnarly. But there's no such thing as an overnight success. You read all these stories, even OpenAI. I don't know if you know this, but OpenAI was a research lab for about 7 years in my YC class. 7 years ago. It wasn't until 7 years later that they built ChatGPT and released it to the world and hit this skyrocket growth. There's no such thing as an overnight success, even at mine. If you look at me after getting into YC, it was this epic rocket ship afterwards. But really, that kind of like disregards the 2 years of grinding that I did every single day. What I say to people is, so many people are like, oh, I want to quit my job and start working on my startup. I don't have enough time. What I say to people is that, look, being a startup founder, you're literally working 100 hours a week. So here's what you can do right now. Work a 40-hour a week job, and then pile on another 60 hours a week building your startup. And if you can do that, then you probably could, stomach being a founder. But really, it is that intense. It is that much work. There's no such thing as an overnight success. It really does require this level of grind for years before you hit any kind of success.
Yeah, actually, this is one of the most important points. When somebody brings a project to me, the first thing I tell him, can you stay at it for 10 years? Most of the people get shocked, They think,
Yeah.
But I say, you're 20 years old, by that time you're 30 years old, and you will be a multi-millionaire. But if you want to do it tomorrow night, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Get prepared for a 10-year or longer journey. I'm literally in my 10-year journey. I basically jumped full-time into Upkeep 2016, but started the company, wrote my first line of code in 2014. I'm 10 years in. I think earlier on we were talking about how to pick the startup and how do you find passion, what's your why. It's really important to find something that you're passionate about. And you probably heard me say I'm actually not passionate about maintenance per se. I'm passionate about the problem that we're solving and who we're solving it for. That's what gets me excited. That's why I'm still so happy 10 years in, is because it's not about building this public company. It's not about the IPO. It's not about getting acquired. It's not about any amount of accolades or mentions or whatnot. It's all about the journey, and it's a long one. So find a problem that you're really passionate about. All right, number 7, do things that don't scale. This is another YC thing. Do things that don't scale. As a startup founder, you don't have more time, more money, more resources, more people, more experience, more knowledge, more expertise. You basically don't have anything except The ability to do things the ability to do things that don't scale, move quickly, iterate, and improve. That's the only thing you have on your side. If you're trying to compete with, I don't know, Yelp or Google Maps or even any of the biotech healthcare startups, there are people who are 10 times smarter. There are people with 1,000,000 times more resources than you. The odds are stacked against us. The only thing that we have on our side is the ability to iterate, improve, get better than we were yesterday, and move quickly. What I also mean by that is the ability to do things that don't scale. When you're a large company, it's very difficult to move things. It's like you're trying to change the trajectory of the entire Titanic ship. But as a team of one person, you have this insane ability to pick up new ideas, iterate on it, and move at blazingly fast speeds. Speed, the ability to iterate, the ability to do things that don't scale, these are the only things that a startup has on your side. So use that for your advantage. Give you a few examples. Airbnb is, obviously the classic example. Have you heard the story about Airbnb and things that they did that didn't scale? Sort of. They're also part of the YC group. But in the early days, there's a few things that they did. One was like they were working on this other idea. They needed a few ideas to basically generate revenue. So basically what they did was they rented out their own place as the very first Air bed and breakfast. Totally unscalable, right? Like they can't just keep buying at places, but because they did that, they got to learn from this experience. They got to learn from having hosts, being the host and having tenants and people come visit their place. And that was beautiful. If you think about, I don't know, a Hilton or a Hyatt or a Marriott, none of the execs are going to let people come into their house. They had this incredible opportunity to do things that didn't scale because they're a very small group of a couple guys. On top of that, when I say like do things that don't scale, I'll just tell you like some of the crazy growth hacky stuff that we did in the early days. I think I heard from you, Ishmael, you're basically picking up the phone and cold calling people. It's exactly what I mean by doing things that don't scale. You get the opportunity to learn. You get the opportunity to just move extremely quickly. There's no bureaucracy, there's no process. And this is the thing that startups have on their side that no other big companies have. All right, number 8, startups equal growth. Growth is the only thing that matters. What separates a startup from a big company? It's not how much revenue. It's not about it. It's literally the only thing that matters is growth. The only thing that matters in a startup, when you're trying to like go raise money and get into Y Combinator, the only thing that they care really about is growth and traction. Yes, all the other stuff matters, like market size, TAM, team. But I promise you, the number one thing that they look at is growth and traction. What YC wants to hear, what investors want to hear, is that you're building a product that people are using that is increasing in traction and growth, and that people are actually getting value from it. Growth is the only thing that matters. All right, 9, grow first, then fundraise, not the other way around. A lot of people come to me, they're like, hey, got this great idea. I'm going to tell you about it, but don't tell anyone. And they go, I got this great idea, but I just need to raise a little bit of capital so I can grow. So I can build the thing, and then we're going to hit the pedal and then grow. No, you got it totally the other way around. Growth is a thing that investors care about. Growth is a thing that matters. I promise you, if you're growing, if you got traction, investors will come. That's what happened in every single one of my fundraisers. We never went out to fundraise, actually. Never. We basically grew. We showed people the charts of our growth and our traction. And they came to me and us and said, We'd love to invest. You're already growing. You don't need money. When you don't need money, that's the best time to raise money. And then the last one, you heard me say this, but you're all capable of way more than you believe. Building a startup is really tough. Building a startup to be successful is you're in the top 1% of 1%ers. The odds are ever stacked against you. It's really tough. But if you believe in yourself, you don't get that, you don't let yourself be discouraged by that, you keep chugging. 9 out of 10 people are going to quit when the times get tough. If you keep going, you'll see this. You're capable of doing just so much more than you think. And at some point, your friend will slap you in the face and be like, turn around and see how far you've come. And you'll realize, come a long way. For me, I'm like very, very proud of my journey at Upkeep. It's just really humbling to see how far I've come, the people that I've met, what I've learned across my 10 years building Upkeep. I feel extremely grateful to that. I feel extremely grateful to all the people that I've met, the mentors that have mentored me. That's one of the reasons why I came back to Irvine today, was because I had some incredible mentors that basically said, I believe in you, Ryan. I wanted to come back here and hopefully inspire some of us in the room and people that are watching on Zoom, if anyone is, to just believe in themselves, that we're all capable of doing way more than we believe. This has been my journey. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's called the startup curve, but there's all these highs and lows of building a startup. And it can feel really good. It can feel really bad. You go on this bumpy journey along the way, including the trough of sorrow, the crash of ineptitude. But I show this because you never know which part of the journey you're on. You don't really know. You don't know if you're at the high, the low. Well, actually, you know if you're at a high or low, but you don't know at which apex you are. Are you at the highest highs, the lowest lows? All you really know is like you're somewhere along this journey, but if you go at it long enough, you'll get to a point where you're just going to keep going up and down, but someone will slap you in the face, turn you around, and say, hey, look how far you've come. That's why I show this slide. Lots of ups and downs along your startup journey. But it's hard to see the ups and downs in the moments until you look around and see how far you've come from the beginnings. All right, this is the last slide, I promise. This is one of my favorite quotes from Mark Twain. 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones that you did do. So throw off the bowline, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sail, explore, dream, and discover. Again, this was something that really motivated me in my startup journey. Motivated me to say, hey, look, the worst case scenario, worst thing that could happen is I explore a little bit, learn a little bit, discover a little bit, and it'll be one of the best times of my life. And I can absolutely say that over the last 10 years of my journey. I'm saying this kind of like in retrospect of, I feel like having a lot of luck and success. But I don't think, even in the most difficult times, I would have traded this moment, this journey for anything else because of how much I've learned, even through the really tough times of Upkeep. All right, that's all for me. Happy to answer any questions.